Aloha, and welcome to another Candid Conversation. We're joined today by Metz Kramer, and we'd like to talk today about the dealers having web pages and aiming at the customer satisfaction, the customer relevance, the customer convenience, everything about the customer that we seem to have lost sight of. So with that as the intro, good afternoon, Mr. Kramer. How are you?
Hey, Ron, good to see you.
So I looked around at about 100 different websites over the last couple of days getting ready for this. And it's kind of what I used to call the yada, yada, yada Seinfeld. Everybody seems to have the same thing. They got different approaches, pictures, sliders, whatever. But it's a picture of equipment. It's got a banner line that lets me get after equipment or who our contacts are or where our locations are. It's more here we are, aren't we good type of statement. I don't know that it's been designed for the customer. You got any comments of that as a, high up in the helicopter starting point?
So I had a thought about this, and I had to think back to like when the internet came out, and we had the first internet companies like Yahoo, and what was the big one? Something online.
America Online.
America Online that sent you the CDs, and this idea came out that, and people would actually say like, hey, what did you do last night? I said, oh, I surfed the web. And it was like, I remembered that statement. And I was like, surf the web. Like no one says that anymore. But back then, when there was like 10,000 web pages and then there were 50,000 web pages in the whole world, people would literally just kind of bounce around looking at people's websites. You'd go to Yahoo or whatever, and they have that nice directory set up. No one Googled for something. You came to a page that listed all the categories, and then you would just start clicking through them, and you would start reading people's websites. And all you were really doing was like reading a book. You were gathering, reviewing people's pages. You weren't really interacting, right? And I think that's kind of indicative of where we are. People are still more often than not in this space building websites that are for surfing. They think that people just want to visit and have a little read about who they are, and think that that's the primary purpose. And then you think about why most people now start their entry to the web. A frightening amount, 80% of people, 90% of people start on Google, and they Google what they're looking for. And the difference is that they have a purpose. They're not going to kill some time and surf around. They do that on Facebook. But when they hit Google, they're trying to find some information. They want to interact with something. They're trying to accomplish a goal. And so when those people start that way and hit a website designed for people who are still surfing the web, I think there's like this clash between the person who comes on trying to accomplish something and the website that they meet that was designed really to just give like a basic overview of the company. It's not meant for engagement. It's just, like, here's a little brochure about our company. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day. Call us if you want. And that was kind of what came to mind when we started thinking about this, like, what are websites for? That's where you start. Like, what's your website for? If you still think it's so that people can check you out a little bit when they're surfing, then you're well behind what people are really doing on the internet.
Yeah, I think that's a valid point. If you think back to the beginning, and it's good to go back there. America Online allowed people to communicate. It was about instant messages. And then commercially, somehow we figured, well, let's do the like you say, the aren't I proud, here I am. And I'd like to suggest that the web page is like their dealer location. You'd have contractors drive by the shop on the weekend. just have a look, see what's in the yard, that type of thing. Or if they're there during the week, go back to the shop, see what's going on, talk to the mechanics. On the internet, we really need to do the same thing. It's a door into the business, not a story about the business.
Yeah, or your dealership with the gates to the yard closed, so people could only drive by. Which is what most people's websites are. It's like the dealership with the gates closed. You can see a little bit. You might think that, hey, I could come back.
Yeah, and then if we go up and look at the rest of the world, think automotive, with TrueCar and CarMax and some of these other things, I can go in, I can pick a brand, I can spec a vehicle, I can see an inventory, I can specify new or used, I can get a trade-in value for mine. And I don't know that anybody's doing that.
No, you don't go to Carvana to see what might be for sale. I mean, there isn't a car website in the internet anymore, I think, where you just go and look at a car and see what might be available. Every single one of them is meant for engagement, even if it's like build your own car and then order it. It isn't even in stock yet. You design it, you build it, you get a demo, you schedule a demo. I mean, you're doing everything.
And that's kind of intriguing. I think what that represents to me is that whoever put that web page together is allowing whoever's coming in to see the web page to determine what it is they want to see. It's all a bunch of selection criteria.
Yep.
You want a new car, a used car, you want parts and supplies, you want repairs, you want maintenance, you want specs, you want prices. What do you want? And
why are you here?
Yeah, if I look at the dealer websites that I have today, it's kind of like, we're glad we're here. Look at us. We're glad you're here. Have a look.
Yeah.
But that's where it stops. It's our choices of what they're going to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read that last blog that came out today by Jenkins, talking about the chair salesman. And I had to think, there's some similarities here. And our websites are like the chair salesman that he kind of highlights, where you walk in and the chair salesman sees you and just starts spouting off like, oh, this chair is this much price and this chair is that much price and all that. The salesman that never asks, hey,
what do you want?
What do you want? Why are you here? Tell me about yourself. And our websites are the same. Like, this is my dealership. This is what I do. This is what I have. And never does the website turn around and say to the person, hi, why are you here? Right? They expect the person to go digging through the website and hopefully find it, but it's not designed to draw the person into a conversation. It was a good article.
Yeah, well, Floyd's got a lot of experience and background in these things. And, your comment, your last blog about the post-pandemic, we wasted 2 years. We come back and we revert. And then similarly, Jennifer Albright made a very cogent comment that she was working from home before the pandemic. Part of the reason that she's ahead of the curve in how she thinks about things. And on Tuesday night, we have a lady by the name of Sarah Hanks, who's writing her first blog, and it's all about digital data. Yikes, like, what are we going to do? It's
You're going to scare me?
Yeah, that's right. So, how getting the dealer to recognize, and this is perhaps part of the dilemma, that their website is like a store. It's just not physical, it's virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And that they've got to design it with the customer in mind, not them.
Yeah.
And we got to almost prompt, and I don't know, comment on this if you would, on how you put together websites for people, because I know you provide that service. And you audit current websites too, I think. You have a look and give people suggestions as to what's good and bad and ugly. But as they come in, we really need a series of questions before anything.
Yep.
How do you go about designing, or how does your team go about designing web pages for dealers?
First, we try and introduce new ideas, which I mean is always, like we're talking here, is a challenge, right? I mean, people still have the same expectations. But as I think the first thing is, I'm a big believer that dealers need to own their own websites.
Yep.
You know, people who go out and just sign up for an out of the box website are never going to think about their website. So step one is just own your own website. Just build your own. Or have someone who is close to you or connected with you build it. You know, have your own hosting. I know it sounds like a lot of work, but it's not. And it changes your perspective on your website, because now it really becomes a thing whereby you can change what's happening, where you can rethink how it's done more easily. You know, if it's the kid down the street who's really good with WordPress, you can say, hey, how about this? I saw this on a website. Can you do that? Yeah, we can do that. Let's put that on it. You know, you're no longer arm's length with, you know, whoever pulled your website out of a can. You're taking kind of responsibility for it. And so then you can apply what you see yourself, because you feel like you really own it. You didn't just, it's not somewhere else. It's not a box that you checked. Now you can start to really think. And I had another dealer come to me just this week that we do their website, and they're like, you know, we started their site the same. Introduce who the dealership is on page one. It's mostly about the dealer. It's, hi, this is me. And like, what if we just took, you know, the page that we know people go to and the page we really want them to go to, which is what we have. Why don't we just make that the homepage? Because that's why they're there. And I was like, you know, it's working. You know, we're rethinking what the purpose of this site is, so that we change the site to recognize why people are coming there, and not directing them to some other part or hope that they find their way there if they just looked us up.
I suspect that's a very important distinction. A guy who owns, he's the president, he's the owner. He's going to go find a WordPress. He's going to find somebody who's got a canned package and adapt it, because that's all he thinks that it is. Somebody needs to engage them in a discussion about, you know, my old argument always was, the customer calls in, they want parts. And the first thing that the guy on the phone asks him, if he doesn't recognize the voice, is, who are you? What's your account number? What's your name, so I can look you up? And what he wants to know is, have you got it? How much is it?
Yeah.
You know, and let's get out of here. Say hi to Sam for me. She looks great. You know, just in a little aside, when we did webinars from Hawaii a long time ago, because of the time zones, I had to start them at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And Marlene's still in bed, and she used to literally have to crawl on her hands and knees to get out of the vision of the camera. You know, anyways. So the website, the person, we should almost make it kind of fun. You know, I've been thinking a lot about using cartoon characters. There was a word processing package that also a PowerPoint package that had a bunch of little gnomes running across the screen, you know, pulling the slide or doing various things. We should almost have somebody that is a meme that answers the, you know, poses the questions and artificially starts looking at the different choices. What are you here for? You know, hey, good to see you, you know?
Yeah, well, you have that. Look at the number of sites when you get there now, and the bottom corner pops up after a couple of minutes. You're on the site, 30 seconds later, it's, hi, I'm so-and-so. How can I help you?
Okay,
Right?
when I looked at the dealers' websites, I saw none of that. Not one.
No.
And that's it, you know, we don't use that either. It's you know, maybe we should, but that's an interesting place. You know, you got a question here. What are you looking for? That's a wonderful way to get it started.
Yep, it's where you should start. I mean, we talked a little bit about um, the changing technology to recognize who's there, especially the repeat customers, so that your website, after a while, using cookies, recognizes that, hey, this is so and so. He's been here numerous times. This is where you go typically. Here's the link right at the beginning of the page. This is where you're here for parts. Click on here. You know, and it moved from where it's normally hidden to where this user can see it right away, because that's why they're typically there. The other thing that we're playing with at the moment is something called Hotjar, which is, you know, a way that I think you might use on your site, a way to watch how people interact with your site.
Yeah.
And I'm going to invite someone on our podcast next, who's at one of the dealers, a marketing VP from outside the industry, and they did just that. I'll let her tell the story, but basically by watching the website, where people are going and recognizing who's there, you can, one, change the site to see where people are getting hung up. Like, you think you got the site right, and you watch people and they always miss where you think they're going to go, or where you want them to go. So you can update that. And two, you know, you can watch that site live. You can literally watch the site live and be like, hey, so-and-so is on the site and he's over here. And we know that person. Ring the phone. Hey, John, I see you're looking at the 345. Yes. You know, and so just kind of rethink. And I think maybe that's the problem, is like, we keep putting the website out there as this thing you have to have. It's not a thing you have to have. It's just an integral part of what you do. And as long as we keep thinking of it as this checkbox, this thing you have to have, the thing you need to do better, it's not just a thing.
Yeah. I call that customer service delivery systems, you know, the walk-in customer, the phone-in customer, et cetera, the internet end. You're coming through my website. And
Yeah.
Google Analytics doesn't give us the kind of data that we need. It's because they're so worried about privacy, even with cookies. So having add-on packages that allow me to, you know, just think for a second that you look at your utilities. There's people in a room looking at a whole bunch of screens monitoring water movement,
Yeah.
natural gas movement, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine having a room in the dealership that's kind of mission control, and there's a bunch of people watching the screens on the wall, noticing, well, Metz Kramer's over there and he's looking at an excavator. Why don't I have our excavator specialist give them a call?
Yeah.
The customer would freak, right?
Yeah.
You're watching me now?
Yeah.
You
So
know,
funny. We think that's freaky.
There's a really interesting book that's just come out. A French author, he teaches in University of Paris, about the internet and how dangerous it is because of the social media and the fact that everything is predicated on getting a shot of dopamine. It's just like you're an alcoholic or a gambler or something. It's the same thing. Every time you get a text message, bing, there's a chemical reaction.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could get a shot of dopamine if the guy found a machine he was looking for, or a part he was looking for, and, you know, getting them, come on back, baby. You know, it's we're not that sophisticated yet, obviously, but
I do that. I sit sometimes and with my Google Analytics open and I watch the live stream and see, you know, how many people are on the site and what pages they're looking at. You can't tell who they are through that platform, but
right.
You can see there. And my favorite thing to do is, you know, send out a blog or a mail campaign and watch it like jump up and see how fast people open their emails and how quickly it piles onto the website, and then quite quickly they disappear again.
Yeah, the
5-10 minutes later.
Yeah. What's interesting to me is, you know, we post Tuesday nights and Fridays, and I do a similar thing.
Yeah.
So I just, okay, and there's this spike.
Yeah.
And here's the amount of time they're there.
Yeah.
And here's the percentage that just blow off. If they look at the title and say, nah, that's no good, I'm out of here. So it's so you're trying to figure out how the heck, once you got them looking, once you, and that's part of the problem with podcasts and blogs, there has to be some regularity.
Mhm.
So it's almost like there should be campaigns going from websites all the time. Thank you for coming. Would you like to participate in a such and such and have access to a draw?
Yeah,
Um,
and you can do that.
there's so many things that we could do. Bonnie Feigenbaum, who's putting together our marketing lectures from McGill in Montreal, that's exactly what she's saying. Social media marketing is one of her lecture series, and
Yeah.
we don't do that.
Yeah, we're
We
doing
struggle to have campaigns in the business.
yeah, yeah. We're doing a webinar on the 24th for IDA on local search and local social media. And it's really local, meaning, what's your local?
Yeah.
If you're a lawn tractor dealership, then your local is very small. If you're a D9 focused used equipment dealer, your local is very big. But as soon as you understand what your local is, all of these tools should be used to find the people that are looking, and it's all there to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting, as you might have noticed, I put up a collage of people.
I noticed.
It's the one that went out this morning is 32, and I got criticized when I put it up, and the comment that came back was, are you international or not? And it was, oh my, it's kind of like the curse of knowledge. When you're a teacher, you know what you know, but you're assuming the student knows what they know. So we put that out this morning, and guess what? Because now the Volvo dealers in North America, 2 different businesses are owned by Europeans.
Yeah.
The trading companies with Komatsu that are part owners in the Komatsu dealers, they're out of Japan. So we can no longer be thinking local. We got to be thinking bigger. What Alex Kraft does with Heave is really interesting. The guy who's looking for a machine, he doesn't care where it comes from. He wants that machine.
Depending on what you sell, right?
Yeah.
It's important to know. We did an analysis for one dealer on all of the wanna buys coming off some other platform. And we found that it was unnaturally weighted towards one brand, very heavily different from like the market share. And you realize that, for that brand, people are more than happy to ship. And for other brands, they won't. And so they don't post wanna buys for those machines because they'll just buy them local. And if they're not available, then they're not. But it's really kind of interesting to understand, pull that data and suddenly come into understanding like, oh, so if I have one of these machines, I can actually post it in a larger area than if I have another one. Because someone who's, I'm in Ontario, if someone in California wants it, they don't, for that kind of machine, they don't care. For this kind of machine, they do. So you can be much more focused on what you put out and where you spend your dollars.
Well, it really opens up the whole field of marketing, doesn't it?
It is still marketing, yeah. I
Yeah,
always hated that marketing was like the smallest group in a dealership.
For many dealerships, marketing doesn't exist. Marketing, it's trade shows and conventions and brochures and
brochures.
Yeah, that's not what marketing. Well, all we've done, what we were talking about early on in this, is all the dealer did on their website is they put a brochure on the computer screen. Congratulations.
Yeah. I was at an international OEM meeting, dealer meeting, corporate meeting, and we had a session on marketing. And the only people that came in from corporate were 3 sort of juniorish brochure marketing people. And I just sat there and smiled. I said, this is marketing? Like, and I had to just I had to on the big piece of paper on the table, write out some like the 4 P's of marketing. And like, that's marketing. You can't just think a brochure is going to get you. And it's no different in the dealership. If you want to look at this website stuff and consider it a brochure, and that's your mindset on marketing, then you really need to rethink what marketing is. It is the core of the business design. When you design a new business, you start with marketing.
Yeah. And we're still rather new. I'm going to put Amazon at the birth, just to pick an arbitrary place. And you and I have talked about this a lot. We need to get different examples. America Online is a really good example.
I love that one.
Yeah. It's yeah, I was on there almost within the first couple of months of existence. And Steve Case lives over here in Hawaii now. He made so much money when he sold at the time. That was a terrible deal. But
not for Steve Case.
well, it again is people chasing. It's kind of like Bitcoin and crypto. It's, you know, everybody's chasing something they don't really understand yet.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with a web page. Most people don't understand what the purpose of the web page is.
Yep.
And you can't do that in a two-page, one-page blog. You know, it needs a discussion.
Yep.
So let's have that discussion. And think in terms of, I'm a dealer and I've got one of those yada, yada, yada brochure type websites. I'm the same as everybody else. I don't have any pop-ups anywhere. Where do I start? How do you convince me, or how do you attract me or excite me about changing it? That's a hard question.
Yeah. How do I excite you? Yeah.
How do you get me excited about
That's
changing
tough.
this?
I was going to turn this on you and say, well, you called me, so you must have some interest. What are you looking for? No, like I would start with what's the purpose of your website? And that has to be the first discussion. So Ron, what's the purpose of your website? Let's look at your website. What's its primary purpose?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Metz, I don't know. What should the purpose be?
Purpose of your website is, from my understanding, to give people access to all the training that you've created.
Oh, you mean mine? Okay, I
Yeah.
thought you were talking, yes. The purpose of our website is to,
Yeah.
it's to provide information to people. It's to be a library, an internet library that can search, that has thousands of documents that they can get answers from, and then expose them to our assessments, which is where everything starts.
Right.
So yeah, and you know, I'm using the resources, the blogs, the podcasts, the newsletters, the audio learning, all of that. I'm using that as the entry point. Come on in, you got a question? And we're starting to get traction on that. And as soon as I start seeing the questions, then the little pop-up's going to show.
Yep.
Oh, you're looking at that. Have a look at this class.
Yep.
You know, because that's how we'll move it around.
Yeah. So the analogy holds.
Yeah.
If
No
you're
question.
if you're now the dealer, then the purpose of your website is to sell your product. I mean, that people get hung up on that because they're like, well, I can't transact a $500,000 bulldozer. Okay. The purpose of the website is to sell your product. You're not there to sell your company, right? And you do things to attract people to your website in order so they will find the equipment or parts or whatever you're selling to sell it. That's why you're doing it. I mean, the worst, if we say often that the parts pages are bad, the worst pages on all dealer websites are the service pages.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it?
And like service defines the dealer, makes, how well you service and support your brand or your product is what it defines your market and your ability to sell more. And it's the worst website. It's the least interactive. Typically, you can't even most of them get a hold of a person. They're just they're lucky if you give you a phone number.
Yeah.
So the purpose of your website is to sell your product. So if your website can't at least start the selling process, the other analogy is just a sales rep. The purpose of your sales rep is to go out and sell your equipment. If your sales rep can't do that, or if he shows up with nothing interesting and gets the door closed on him, then he won't be able to do it.
So that little character popping up on the right-hand side at the bottom that gives you a little bar to type things in, that becomes really important, doesn't it?
I think that's hugely important. I use it 50% of the things that aren't like all my personal stuff, 50% of the time I go to the website, I start there. My cell phone bill, my problem with this, I want to contact this company about some product. I go to the website, I wait for that thing to pop up, and I start chatting with someone, because it's the fastest way nowadays to get a hold of someone.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So Sarah Hanks, who's coming along and on digital transformations, she talks about the example that she just recently went to a dentist.
Mhm.
And she walked into the dentist's office and everything's manual. They look in an appointment book, they all the rest of the nonsense. And she uses that as a springboard to go over. Somebody walks into the dealership today, physical plant, forget the internet for a second, walks into the dealership. Nobody keeps track of that.
Yeah.
There's no sign-in book.
Yeah.
Where'd you go? Who'd you see? What are you here for? What, we don't. So when I go over to the internet and expect them to be able to answer those questions, that's really alien, isn't it?
Yeah. I guess it explains why people's service departments, websites don't have interactivity, because you get the service department and they're keeping track of stuff on a clipboard.
About 25, 30 years ago, we started putting computer screens in the shop in the waiting area. We put them out on every bay as well to indicate all the action that was going on. And now Dale Hanna comes across with Foresight Intelligence, and others do the same thing, but text messages, pictures going out. Here's all the action that took place today. That should be so common. Marlene's got her car at the dealership. We dropped it off the other night. They were expecting an inspection yesterday. We got a call at 5:15. We need more time. It's Friday. Here's, we'll get back to you. Well, we might not get the car back for the weekend. That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What the heck's that all about? And our service departments do that every damn day and week. Do we meet completion dates? No. Or if you find somebody that says they do, I want to talk to them.
That's in our culture. I think in our culture is the excuse that our industry is unpredictable. And yes, it can be unpredictable, but there are lots of industries that are equally unpredictable and have fought through to become predictable. So I should write a blog on why we're so reactive.
Not a bad idea. No, I'm serious. It's not a bad idea. The situation, and again, I got to go back to Amazon, and the target was a bookstore. And I read a lot and buy a lot of books, and I'd go into a bookstore. They never had what I needed. So Amazon recognized that they had to bring it in.
Yeah.
So they said, well, I don't need to have an inventory.
Yeah.
Look at Tesla. It doesn't have a shop anywhere.
No.
What does that do to the cost structure of the business, of the dealership? Hello. It's funny. I used to be a little bit more provocative 20, 30 years ago. I would say to the dealership, I said, why don't you get rid of the equipment line? You'll make a heck of a lot more money. And they'd look at me and said, well, we wouldn't make anything if we didn't have equipment. I said, really? Well, where am I going to get the parts? You can get anything you want anywhere on the world. Oh, yeah. Come on. And our customers are proving that to us every day on the internet, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. It's much easier to find parts somewhere else than to try and get through on the phone to your dealer.
Well, where I was trying to take you was, it's much easier to buy parts on the internet from a non-genuine than it is to find the OEM dealer have it available, because they don't process it that way. The independent, the competitor, the JIPO, whatever terminology we want to use, they want the business. They're hungry for the business. They're doing things to get the customer excited.
Yeah. I don't even think people realize this, but there's a huge number of independent dealers that run equipment and service equipment, and they are figuring out where to buy the parts to be cost competitive and to make some money on reselling the parts themselves. They are, reducing dealer part market share because they'll go and find the source for those parts. And all that does is grow the market for will fit parts and alternative parts so that customers will find them just as easily. So
The trick with that, Mets, that everybody kind of overlooks is your market share on labor
yeah,
is a direct driver of your market share on parts. The mechanic, the independent mechanic that's doing the repair for you, he
yeah,
chooses the source of parts. You don't.
yeah,
And what's his motivation? He wants to make some money. So he goes where he can get the best deal. And that is not the OEM dealer.
yep, yeah. So that it's out there. It's easier than it is, and there are new. I talked to a new company this week that is coming into the heavy equipment space to do parts with kind of a Facebook connection kind of setup. And the first thing they recognized is that it's one thing to know the part numbers and have that information, but where selling the parts falls apart faster is on like the logistics and the commercial terms and the transaction. So they've built the whole transaction and logistics platform. After that, it's simply go in, put in the part numbers you want, and any dealer that goes on the site and loads their inventory can quote that. So they didn't tackle it from the perspective of the dealer who thinks that, having the parts book and the part number is what's most important. They are tackling this from the side of how do I make this transaction easier, which is exactly what Amazon did. They made selling stuff and getting it to you easy and fast. And then they went looking for more product to do it with. So, and people go there not because they go there because you can find anything nowadays, but it was built on being able to get it to you faster. So, for any dealer looking at their website, knowing that everyone who's making a difference on the internet and everyone who's buying is being trained by those kinds of sites. If you're not considering the ease of doing something, the ease of transaction, the fullness of the transaction as what people will switch for, then unfortunately you're wrong. I think you have to enable that.
There's another aspect of business, and again, Amazon, Walmart's doing it now, but we think in terms of equipment, new and used. We think in terms of rentals. We think in terms of parts. We think in terms of service. Nobody's talking about customer services. Like I've got sensors, I got telematics, I can do a health check on your machine every hour, every minute of the day.
Yeah.
If there's something wrong, I can send you an alert and tell you to stop your machine. We should charge for that. The logistics, now that the supply chain has become such an issue, I've been saying for a long time, look, I'll guarantee you delivery today. It's for nothing.
Yep.
But you're going to have to subscribe to a membership. So think in terms of Netflix and just use round numbers. They have 200 million people around the world that subscribe to them and pay them $20 a month.
Yep.
That's not bad cash flow, baby.
Yeah.
So extended warranty. You want a standard 3-month warranty, 6-month, 12-month. What would you like? Would you like me to come out and do an inspection service like your doctor? You want to come in and have a checkup from the neck up once a year, twice a year? Do you want to clean your teeth? Do you want me to come out and there's so many different things that we could offer that this company is starting to look at it from that perspective. They're trying to enhance the customer experience, aren't they?
Yep.
And we've left the customer experience alone for 30, 40 years.
Yeah, look, I recent conversation this week about Ritchie's, where they're going next. I mean, in 20 years, they've transformed the auction world. People sit in their offices now to go to auctions. Now, you told me like 20 years ago that a dealer would be comfortable with sitting in front of his computer screen, watching an auction and buying from a computer. I got to go to the yard, I got to go kick some stuff and go look at it. And yet more and more of my dealers I work with, if the auction's on, they're like, oh, I'm just watching the auction in the background until my machines come up. But look at that, look what they've done over the years. They've used that data that they're learning to understand exactly what something should sell for and whether or not they should put it in their own stock. 2, they've added all kinds of services to make more money off of the people bringing machines to auction to prep the machines. And now they're moving into parts. They have all the data.
Yeah. You know where that all started? The auction online.
Where?
thoroughbred horses.
Oh, I was wondering where you're going.
No joke.
No joke. No, I believe it.
The horses that are running in the Kentucky Derby, nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, those suckers are bought. That $30,000 horse that won at 80 to 1.
Yeah.
You know, and I saw that platform, I don't know, 30 years or something, like 1990, somewhere in there. And I was thunderstruck.
Yeah.
Here comes the horse. It's on camera. He's in Saudi Arabia, he's in Ireland, he's in Kentucky, Argentina, he's all over the darn world. He's a polo horse, he's a racehorse. And I'm thinking to myself, damn. So the moral of that story is we got to get out of our box and look over the wall and see what other industries are doing, what other people are doing. That's exactly what those folks did. What does the customer want and need?
So how is it a dealer can sit and buy equipment at auction online, at the same time that dealer doesn't believe that his customers will buy equipment off the website?
Yep.
Isn't that fascinating?
Oh, it's
They need a relationship. They want a relationship sell. And you're clicking away and buying your machine, your inventory.
Well, before we go down that road, I think that's the next road we should go down, but that'll be another podcast. I hope we've provoked people to think about the fact that the website is an action center.
Absolutely.
And getting that little character in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, after you've been there for a second, you look at somebody and he pops up and says, "Oh, I notice you're looking at excavators. Have you got an interest in excavators?" And now you need to answer that question.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Or the phone rings in your office. "Hey, Metz, I notice you're looking at that 345 right now. Is that, you really need a machine that big? I didn't know you know."
Your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, I think this is a reasonably logical point to end. You?
Yeah. Why are you here? Ask yourself that question. When your customer shows up at your website, are you asking that customer, why are you here?
Yeah. What's the purpose and why are you here?
Yeah.
Okay. Terrific. Thank you, Metz. Mahalo. And thank you to all of you that are listening. And I look forward to having you present at another of these exciting podcasts, these candid conversations. See you next time.